Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of One Man Huddle. I'm your man Jason. Today we're going to be talking about all the big headlines between Monday afternoon and Wednesday mid-morning-ish when I'm recording this. We're also going to talk about a short recap of Monday Night Football between the Panthers and the 49ers. And we're also going to look ahead to the Thanksgiving Day games that are happening tomorrow. And we're going to also talk about the first ever Black Friday NFL game this week. So, stay tuned for those predictions later on. But first, we're going to start with a short little tidbit from the 49ers and Panthers game Monday night. Panther safety Trayvon Merrig has been suspended for one game after throwing a low blow punch at Juwan Jennings after a play was finished up and the whistle had blown. Very clear in the video. You can see he throws a punch at Juwan Jennings' groin, and he's suspending a suspension. He was handed a 1-game suspension. He is appealing it. Doubt that it gets overturned with the video evidence that is there that shows that it looks very intentional. So, big blow for the Panthers potentially in their secondary because J.C. Horn also went down with an injury, so they could be very shorthanded in the secondary this upcoming week for their game. Probably the biggest headline of the entire week, Joe Burrow is expected to make his return tomorrow on Thanksgiving against the Ravens. It's his first game back since his injury. He says if he's healthy, he's going to play regardless of Cincinnati's 3-8 record right now. So he's obviously feeling himself, trying to get back into the playoff race. They're pretty far behind at this point in the season. They're only, I believe, 4 games back of the division lead, but there are only 5 or 6 games left of the season, so they'd have to have a lot of stuff go their way to win the division. As far as the wild card, they're just as far out of the wild card as they are their own division at this point. It's going to be a tough road ahead to make the playoffs for the Bengals. We'll see what happens. We'll talk more about that game later on. The Bills have signed wide receiver Brandon Cooks. This is coming after Mecole Hardman had an injury. He's out for a long time. And Keon Coleman has been benched for the last 2 weeks for what is being called disciplinary issues. So we'll see if he plays this upcoming week or if he's sitting out again. He's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks, so we'll see what is going on with Keon Coleman. Hopefully we'll hear something more before the game on Sunday. The Chiefs are getting Isaiah Pacheco back tomorrow. It'll be his first action since October 27th when he went down with an injury. He's expected to be on a snap count. We're not sure exactly, what to expect from him coming into this game. All I've seen is Andy Reid said they expect to get him out there, but they're not sure how much he'll be out there. So they did sign Dameon Pierce this past week to help with the backfield load, with Kareem Hunt taking a majority of the snaps at running back since October 27th. So it'll be nice for him to get a little bit of some help in the backfield. We'll see if Mahomes and company can take advantage of that tomorrow. Now, this is slightly different from what I've talked about in the past, but the first year eligible Hall of Fame finalists were announced just a day or two ago. The 5 newcomers are Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Frank Gore, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jason Witten. Good luck to all those guys. In my opinion, they all 5 deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They've all had fantastic careers. So good luck to all those guys, and good luck to all the other finalists that have been announced that have been in for more than just 1 year so far. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we get into the Monday Night Football recap and then get into the picks for Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday, teams facing elimination from the playoffs this week. It's getting towards the end of the season. Those bottom tier teams are fighting for their lives. We already had the Giants get eliminated this past week. I mentioned that on Monday's episode. This week we could have a lot more teams get added, potentially. Some of the scenarios are a little crazy that could knock them out that are very unlikely. So I'm not going to go into detail about what needs to happen for these teams to get eliminated, but I will just mention the teams on the chopping block, if you will. Those are the Cardinals, the Commanders, the Saints, the Titans, the Jets, and the Raiders. All teams that you would expect at this point in the season with their record to kind of be, about to be eliminated or already eliminated. Some of these teams are as good as eliminated as they sit. Even with a win, you would think these teams are not making the playoffs as of right now. I wish that I had thought about getting their combined record before starting this, because it can't be good. I think the Cardinals have 4 wins. The Commanders, I think, have 4 or 3. Actually, I think they have 3. The Saints have 2. The Titans have 1. The Jets have 2. The Raiders have 2. Their overall record combined, horrible. It makes sense these teams are on the chopping block. Now, let's flip a switch and talk about Monday night's game a little bit. I mentioned the punch to the groin. That was a whole thing. Let's talk about how this game was a turnover matchup. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions. Bryce Young threw 2. What a horrible game for both quarterbacks, honestly. These teams were, I say these teams, the 49ers were carried by their defense because Bryce Young could not take advantage of 3 interceptions that Brock Purdy threw. And then in turn, Brock Purdy, he may have taken advantage of one of those interceptions. I didn't look to see, and I can't remember off the top of my head what happened in that game. But the 49ers defense did come through and clean up an overall ugly win. I'm just going to say it bluntly. It was an ugly offensive performance by the 49ers. Neither team's leading receiver was actually a wide receiver. George Kittle was the leading receiver for the 49ers, and Rico Dowdle was the leading receiver for the Panthers. Neither of those players play wide receiver. I think the leading receiver that was a wide receiver for the 49ers was in 3rd overall, but I'm pretty sure Kittle was 1st, McCaffrey was 2nd, and then I think it was Juwan Jennings was in 3rd. So both teams didn't run the ball well. I say that the Panthers, as far as yards per carry, they averaged 5.3 yards per carry, but they only ran the ball 13 times the whole game. Not really sure what their game plan was going into this. Maybe they just wanted to really attack the 49ers secondary. Maybe they thought they had some mismatches there or something. All I know is that Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard and Bryce Young were able to do very well on the ground. I wish that they had run the ball more in the first half and stayed in this game to keep it closer, where they could have run the ball towards the end of the game if they wanted to, if they had been within 1 score. Obviously, the game ended 20-9 or something along that. So it was a 2-possession game at the end anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Like I said, overall just sloppy from both offenses. And I'm trying to think of what to say here. They were able to chew the clock at the end of the game, basically, and hold the ball long enough to where they didn't have to worry about the Panthers being able to go down and score and then get the ball back and score again. So, yeah, just a sloppy Monday night game. I was hoping for a better game, but it is what it is. So the result of that game did bring my overall pick record last week to 11-2. So not bad. I missed the Cowboys game because I picked the Eagles, and then I don't remember the other game that I missed. My memory is not that good. So, now that we're done with the Monday Night Football nonsense recap, let's get into the Thanksgiving Day games and the Black Friday game. So, first up, the first game on Thanksgiving is the Packers versus the Lions. And I'm just going to start this off by reading off all the players that showed up on each team's injury report because, man, these teams are beat up at this point in the season. For the Packers, they had Carl Brooks, Luke Van Ness, and Savion Williams. They did not practice on the injury report. And then Javon Bullard, Adrian Cooper, Matthew Golden, Nate Hobbs, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, Zach Tom, Quay Walker, Keyshawn Nixon, and Dontavian Wicks were all limited yesterday, which was Tuesday. So we'll see what the injury report, and they'll have a game designation today when the injury report comes out. So keep an eye on that to see if any of those players are actually able to play tomorrow. It would be a big boost. I assume a lot of the limited practices from Tuesday will play. The one outlier, in my opinion, is Josh Jacobs with the knee injury. It was said he could miss a little bit of time. He's not expected to go on IR, not season ending or anything like that. But keep an eye on that. Emmanuel Wilson stepped in for him last week and played phenomenally. Great game for him last week. So if he needs to step in again, I expect him to do well once again. Now, for the Lions, you have Graham Glasgow, Kirby Joseph, Khalif Raymond, and Brock Wright have been DNP all week. Haven't practiced yet this week. And I think I saw Dan Campbell's basically confirmed Kirby Joseph will not be playing in this game, but we'll see that for sure when the game designations come out later on today, this afternoon. And then, meanwhile, Terrion Arnold, Taylor Decker, Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell, and Isaac Slaw were all limited. So we'll see if any of those guys are ruled out later this afternoon. Now we have that part out of the way, let's get into the analysis of the game. It's a divisional matchup, so hard-fought game expected between both teams. The Packers have been shaky in offense this season, and the wide receivers have had problems staying healthy. Josh Jacobs was out last week, so hasn't been the easiest of seasons for Jordan Love, considering he hasn't had his full starting offense out there probably at all this season. I don't know that for a fact, but it feels like they haven't been healthy fully this entire season so far. The Lions offense exploded last week with Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mentioned that on Monday, that those two absolutely went off in a game that you would think would have been a blowout that went to overtime. They did win, but, that Lions offense is a little worrisome, to say the least. The Packers defense was able to slow down an already slow Vikings offense. They were able to contain Justin Jefferson and Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones and J.J. McCarthy, if you want to throw him in there, even though he, in my opinion, hasn't shown anything worth being worried about. So, to be honest, I don't see the Packers defense being able to make enough stops to keep the Packers offense in this game with how inconsistent they have been so far this season. So, the home field advantage for Detroit, I feel like, plays a factor. Give me the Lions to win this game, but I expect it to be close, at least up until towards the end. Maybe it'll get a little out of hand, if you will. The Lions may win by 10 with a late touchdown or a late field goal to make it a 2-possession game. I don't think the Packers have the defense right now to slow down Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. No disrespect to them. They played great this season. I think they're 7-3-1, something close to that. So they've been good this season, but their offense is a little shaky, a little too shaky for me to be confident in picking them to win this game. So give me the Lions in a close one. And let's move on to the middle game on Thanksgiving, which is the Cowboys versus the Chiefs. I flipped that. Chiefs versus the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the home team in this game. The Cowboys and Chiefs are both coming off game-winning field goals last week. The Cowboys beating the Eagles in regulation. The Chiefs beating the Colts in overtime. So the Cowboys offense is clicking. When it's clicking, it's nearly impossible to stop with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson and Javonte Williams all out there at once for Dak to just use at his disposal. If the receiver's getting open and can hold on to the ball, talking to you, CeeDee Lamb, they could spell trouble for Kansas City here. The Chiefs defense has been good this year, if not inconsistent. So we'll see what defense shows up for this game. On the other side of the ball, the Cowboys defense has looked much better since they traded for Quinnen Williams at the trade deadline. Whether that's him carrying the whole defense on his back or just they figure something out schematically overall, they've looked better. I don't know which it is. It may not be either. I don't know what they figured out, but they have looked better than they did at the beginning of the season, at least. So they have to be on their A game against Mahomes because he's got his back up against the wall for the rest of the season just to make the playoffs. He's going to be playing the best ball he's played this year for the rest of the year, more than likely. Pressure him as much as you can. That's all I can tell the Cowboys to do. He has clearly not been as good under pressure this season as when he has a clean pocket and has time to throw. So they do have Isaiah Pacheco coming back, which is a huge gain. I mean, depending on how much he plays, if he only plays 5 snaps, then, I guess he could make an impact in those 5 snaps, but the chances are slim that he would make a huge impact in 5 snaps. Anyway, I think this is a game that whoever possesses the ball at the end of the game will be the winner. I think it's going to be a close game just because of how high-powered both of these offenses can be. I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game. So, give me Dallas to upset Kansas City in AT&T Stadium on Thanksgiving. Now, let's move on to the night game, which at first glance doesn't feel like it should be the one closing out Thanksgiving Day because of the record of the Bengals, but Joe Burrow is expected back, so this is a big, big, big game for the Bengals, who are essentially on the cusp of playoff elimination. They weren't one of the teams that can be eliminated this week because they still can win the division if the Ravens just absolutely collapse and if the Steelers collapse as well. So, Ja'Marr Chase, Joe Burrow playing for the first time in months together. Ja'Marr Chase coming off of a suspension. We told that story last week. So, now, Lamar Jackson is ready to go, and he's got Derrick Henry in the backfield with him. This game has the potential to be just electric. Could be an extremely high-scoring game. I wouldn't be surprised with the Bengals defense missing Trey Hendrickson once again for the 5th game in a row. The Ravens have struggled offensively to start games recently. The last few weeks, it feels like they've been a little slow to start. So, I feel like Lamar can lead the team to a win with the offense. But if the Bengals click on offense at the beginning and the Ravens don't, and the Bengals go up by 14, 17 points before halftime, the Ravens could be in trouble because they've struggled this year offensively. They've been a little inconsistent. I know Lamar missed some games, so their stats are a little bit skewed, but I don't know. They had this game. I'm looking forward to this game. That's what I'll leave it at. Now, as far as my pick, give me the Ravens to pull out the win. I don't think it's the right idea to put Joe Burrow back in. You're not going to make the playoffs at this point. Don't put your star quarterback in at the end of the season when it doesn't mean anything and risk injury. That's just my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own. Obviously, Joe Burrow has said he's going to play regardless if they're in the playoffs or not, it looks like. So, give me the Ravens to pull out the win in what I would expect to be a shootout. Now, the last game that I'm going to talk about today is the Black Friday game. NFL's first ever Black Friday game. So, all eyes will be on this game. I think it's at 3 o'clock Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. Caleb Williams has looked much better than expected this season. I may have not even said what game that is. It's the Bears versus the Eagles. Caleb Williams has looked much better than I expected this season. But on the flip side, Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley have been less productive than I expected. After the season that they had last year, coming off a Super Bowl, I was like, man, these guys have a chance to go back-to-back with this team that they have. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, that offensive line. But the Bears' defense has been my biggest talking point this season so far when talking about the Bears. The amount of turnovers that they create is crazy. They lead the league with 16 total takeaways so far this season. And the Eagles have a few players that are questionable on offense this week that if they were to miss this game, I don't think that they will, except maybe one of the linemen, I think could spell trouble. Those players on offense that are questionable are Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Lane Johnson. Those last two are key pieces to the offensive line. If either of those guys misses I'll broaden it. If any of those 4 guys miss this game, it fully changes Philadelphia's game plan going into it. because those four players play such a critical role on that offense. The Eagles have struggled to keep their offensive momentum going past halftime, such as this past week. They were up 21-0 at halftime against the Cowboys, turn around and they lose 24-21 because they can't score in the second half. I don't know. This isn't the first time that they've blown a lead this season. They blew a lead against my Broncos and lost that game at the end after a crazy collapse. I don't know. They struggle in the second half offensively, and that scares me. I don't know. The Bears will hang around in this game. They may not win it, but they're gonna hang around. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai and DJ Moore, those guys have the skill to score on this Eagles defense as long as they come in with the right game plan. So I can't believe I'm picking the Bears to beat the Eagles in 2025, but here I am. I'm doing it. I'm picking the Bears to go in to Lincoln Financial Field and upset the Eagles on Black Friday. And no, that is not me saying Caleb Williams is on the same level as people like Dak Prescott. But I don't know. I have a feeling the Bears are going to win their division this year. And it starts with winning this game, because if they don't win this game, then Green Bay's right back there, or the Lions are right back there, depending on who wins that game. So, give me the Bears to pull out all the stops and get the win in Philadelphia on Black Friday to solidify that they're a playoff team. So, that's all I have for today, guys. I had a lot of unknowns in this episode as far as what I wanted to do for these games for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I was on the fence for all of them. I feel like, except for maybe the Bengals Ravens, I feel confident in the Ravens offense being able to do something against the Bengals defense. But overall, we'll see where we stand on Friday. I'm not sure exactly when I'll record Friday's episode, so it may be before or after the Black Friday game itself. I may wait until after, just to be able to get a quick, while it's still fresh on my mind, recap of the Bears-Eagles game on Friday. So we'll see what happens come Friday, and we'll also talk about all of the games on Sunday and Monday Night Football on Friday as well, to get the prediction and analysis as well. And then any storylines that come out of the Thanksgiving games, we'll talk about those as well. So make sure you leave a like, comment if you think that I'm out of my mind on any of these picks, or let me know what your picks are below if you don't agree with me. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, including myself, and including anybody who decides to sit and watch this with me and listen to me just spew nonsense. So thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you on Friday.